Hello, everybody. Thank you for being a part of today's What's on Your Plate. I'm Maureen Hill. I'm the chairperson for Visit Rochester's Membership Engagement Committee, and I'm also the proud marketing manager of Iconic IT. I'm thrilled to be your host. Today we have gathered both members and potential members of Visit Rochester here, and we're going to share some of the current challenges, successes, and opportunities that we're having in this unusual time. And we're going to socialize too, of course, and get to know each other. But at this point, I want everyone to mute your mics because we do have some amazing special guests. I've got two great people here today who are going to share their stories. We're going to spotlight them for a little bit before we share what's on our own plates. Today I want to welcome Sara, who's the Director of Tourism, and she's also the Director of Event Sales for the Genesee Country Village and Museum. And I want to welcome Miss Hillary Olson, who's the President and CEO of the Rochester Museum and Science Center. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it. Thank you for being here. We're going to have time at the end for questions and for everyone to give their own updates. So please stick around so that we can share what's on each other's plates too. Let's get started with a couple questions here. Okay, Miss Sara, I am starting with you.
Okay.
So the demonstrations that are at the Genesee Country Village and Museum are so unique. They're fascinating. The hands-on way that people make desserts from scratch and doing weavings and that kind of things with a loom. Now that we're in these times of social distancing, how are you handling those types of demos?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And as you can imagine, in the months leading up to opening, there was a lot of discussion. How is this going to look? How are we going to do this? What is a good idea? What is not a good idea? For those who are familiar with the museum, way back, longer than I can remember back to my tenure with here. I've been at the museum since about 2012 on and off. And we pride ourselves in how far we've come with breaking down the barriers and having that close social interaction and not having, barriers in buildings and really having like hands-on activities. And we've come a long way from, 10, 15 years ago when you'd walk in a building at the museum and you would just more or less walk through and there might be an interpreter there, but they'd be behind the building or behind the barriers and so forth. And that was something that we're like, we had kind of the hard conversation that we had to rethink. It also comes down to not only how are we going to execute the demonstrations, but what is staffing going to look like? When we're really trying to, at that point in the planning stages, guess of how many people and how much visitation we're going to have. What makes sense as far as how many buildings are we going to have open? Is the visitation going to be ready once it is time to open to meet us to then justify having so many buildings open? We have 68 historic structures on site, and typically it's about 24 open with somebody inside, an interpreter staffed in costume with maybe 10 or 15 more actually open that wouldn't be staffed with those barriers. So we had to kind of rethink that. What we ended up with is a little bit of a hybrid. We've got a lot of these buildings are still now open. We are staying within the occupancy rules given the size and the capacity of the space. We're kind of hoping and had hoped, and it seems to actually be turning out well, that because we're an outdoor facility, that visitation would be ready and willing to meet us when we were open. But we had heard that that might have been a slow roll. So we were ready and armed with demonstrations still happening, just further back. You'll see throughout the village, if you guys come and visit us or have come to visit us, you'll see some interpreters are still in costume and some are not. Some are wearing just a blue GCV&M shirt. Everybody's in masks, whether that's a traditional, mask that everybody here on this call is wearing every day, or it's something from a historic, period material, or even just a bandana. Everybody is wearing masks and just set further back. But a lot of these demonstrations still can happen. We're just set a little back. We have some of these barriers back up. We're managing flow inside and outside buildings instead of just letting people kind of freely come in and outside the buildings. We're managing that. have our mask policy that I can get into a little bit later. But the demonstrations are still happening. We're just not having as many hands-on things and takeaways. A good example of this is our tin ornament. Typically, that is something that children, adults alike could come and go to the tinsmith, learn how to pound out a tin ornament and take that home with them. That's something, just an example of a couple of things throughout the village that we would have like that, or like a make and take model that we no longer can do. But what we've done is we've just actually recently in the last week or two released different packages that people can take with them, so then they can do projects like that at home. And the good news is it doesn't seem that that it's deterred visitors. We've had really good visitation so far, and it seems to be going really well. And the demonstrations can still happen. It just looks a little bit differently, and everybody's really respectful of keeping that space and being mindful of our policies and everything so far. So still happening, just in a little bit of a scaled down version with a little bit more spacing in between.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear it because there's such a unique part of coming to visit. You mentioned there you're spacing out visitors as they come in or monitoring the flow. Can you just give us a little inside scoop as to how you're doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, full transparency, because I hope that it's helpful for everyone. There's been challenges with that. What we've done is we've said, because we are an outdoor institution, our mask policy we've decided on is that we're asking people upon entering and exiting and high traffic areas such as admissions to please wear your mask. If you're out in the village and you're walking, you can then take that mask off if you are able to maintain a social distance from different parties of people, or what we're calling pods. And then once you're going in and out of the buildings, we are asking that, you maintain the distance between standing in line outside those buildings and then are waiting outside until the interpreter comes out to let you know that the family has now left and the next party can come in. That's not to say, though, there's been, periods of time where we've had, good problem to have, a lot of people on site and, a line of people outside a building. And we've had to have extra staff because it's too much for the interpreter to kind of handle that flow.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very much learning in real time. We're very much talking through this and trying to fill in that support where needed. So definitely can't say it's going perfectly. It's new, we're navigating through it just like everyone else, but it seems to be best case scenario as far as getting lots of people here and making sure they feel safe. Also, obviously making sure the staff and our interpreters feel safe as well is a really big priority. So between the interpreter helping managing traffic and then pulling in support from other staff, we've been able to kind of keep that at bay where needed in the pockets where we get busier.
Perfect. Yeah, having that interpreter come out and bring people in, that's an extra step, right? But more staff helping with that, that's good. Great to know. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's move over to Hillary here for a second and ask you about your experience within the facility, which is primarily inside, at least at the museum. Feel free to tell us about Cummings, the nature center there, and how things are as well. But when it comes to the museum itself, the experience of touching and building, turning things, I mean, there's so much hands-on activities. How have you changed them so that visitors are staying safe but still getting to enjoy and learn from those exhibits?
Yeah, I do have to say that I'm really jealous of Genesee Country and the zoo and anybody that's got a huge outdoor venue. I mean, we do have 900 acres down in Naples.
Beautiful too.
Yeah, oh my God, the Cumming Nature Center is just an amazing experience, but primarily RMSC is an indoor experience. There are several activities that we've had to either modify or completely close down for a little while. And when I say a little while, it's, March 13th since then. So things like the dig pit for dinosaur bones, or the sand and water table, or, anything that involves a lot of really deep, like kiva planks, things that you're touching all the time. We've closed down and offered different and modified experiences. Our makerspace, the Adventure Center, we haven't been able to do. But what's been really beautiful about that is that now that we've sort of closed down some areas, we have had our summer camp experiences available all summer long. So today's the last day of summer camp at RMSC. And knock on wood, I mean, we got, what, 5 hours left, but everything has gone beautifully, smoothly, and safe. So during that time, we had to space out the kids in the summer camp program. So we were able to use the closed down exhibit spaces as summer camp classrooms. So we had just as many kids at camp as we normally would, or almost. But we closed down the mezzanine exhibit that was all, really high touch things, and that became a classroom. So we were able to use that to our advantage. And we've had a really amazing, successful summer camp experience because of that. And then leading off of that, we had recently a few of the camp staff from our education department had the idea that, and you might have seen it on the news, The Strong is doing this also, that we were going to care for kids during their school day here at the museum. We have a lot of space. From what we know, and I'm sure everybody else is dealing with this too, there will be no field trips this year. At least through the fall, but probably through the rest of the year for budget reasons and COVID reasons. So we were looking at having, 0 people in the building, or not 0, but many fewer people in the building without our field trips. We were also looking at having not having workshops and planetarium shows in-house and things like that. So how do we fill the space? So the Curiosity Club program that we just opened is about filling the space with kids 6 feet apart, wearing masks while they're doing their online schooling. So that's a really exciting thing that's really come out of this. How do we innovate in this time? Down at the Coming Nature Center, we have our Forest School program, which is a 1-day-a-week program for kids to be able to do outdoor learning and outdoor education. And we've always done relatively well with a couple days a week of Forest School. And I think it was Wednesdays and Fridays. Now it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Oh.
Yeah, because people are like, get my kid outside, get them distant, get them in fresh air. So we're having great success with Forest School, and have just taken on a high school program that is similar. It's an outdoor education high school or gap year program called the Walden Project New York, and that is at the Coming Nature Center as well. So, and that's filling up. So people want their kids outside, and where we can offer that, we will.
I love it. Anyone who hasn't had a chance to go down to the Cummings Nature Center should absolutely take the trip. Not only is the trip beautiful, but when you get there, the trails are beautiful. I love the beaver pond, or what is it called? It's that they built, and it's beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, it's magical.
What about the planetarium, Hillary? What can and can't we do there right now?
So about 1.5 years ago, we renovated the planetarium, which had sort of fixed theater style seating, and now it has movable chairs. Having no idea that COVID was coming, this has been the biggest help for us for so many reasons, but the planetarium capacity was somewhere around 135 people. Now it's at about 30 people. But we can just remove chairs, so it doesn't seem like it's empty. We're just spacing chairs, 6 feet apart, and people sort of cluster their own chairs together. We have during a close down, we installed a new laser system. So the laser shows are even better. And what's happening in the planetarium is those shows are selling out. It's because our capacity is 36, not 150, but they're selling out, and people are really enjoying it. And sort of refinding, because right now there's not movie theater experiences, and this is a theater-like experience where you're coming in to either hear about the sky tonight, or any one of our special astronomy shows, or a fun Pink Floyd laser program on Saturday night, and it's been really popular. So people are finally allowed to feel like they're in a theater setting, and if they're coming to an astronomy show, they're learning something, which is good.
It sounds beautiful. What about Carl? There was a rumor he was retiring.
Carl is semi-retired.
I don't know if everyone knows who or what that is. Go
so
ahead.
On the picture that you can see there, Carl is in the center. He is the planetarium projection system that we bought in 1967, installed in 1968. It's named Carl because it was from the Carl Zeiss optical company in Germany. Carl is 50 years old. He's got some light leaks. He's got a couple other problems. And so when we renovated the planetarium 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, we installed a program called Digistar. So we actually have projected stars on the dome, which is a lot more accurate. It allows us to get much deeper and much more interactive with, like, you can actually go to Saturn and there's no longer any slides, which is what we were using in conjunction with Carl. But people love Carl so much that we had and will continue to have post-COVID special programs on every once in a while, once a month roughly, called Stars with Carl. And we would use the projector. He's so big, and it's not an easy thing to just move him. And there's a few things that he can do that the Digistar system can't do. So we're keeping him there. If we ever did get another star projector, Carl would remain on site and be a beautiful exhibit piece.
Awesome. We hope so.
He's not going anywhere.
Many of us grew up with him and hope that he will always have a home somewhere.
Yes, he's not going anywhere.
Very cool. Okay.
He's just resting.
Sara, the outdoor spaces that you do have, I'm hoping they will allow for the field trips it's it's part of an iconic experience, 4th, 5th grade to go there. Are you still planning on holding field trips?
It's a good question. As far as I know, we are ready and willing to take them. It's more so we're waiting to hear from schools at this point.
Okay.
It definitely will play into our overall occupancy, and we're, just as Hillary mentioned, we just finished up Camp 2 and everything went great. Definitely a scaled down all outdoor version, which a lot of it was outdoors anyways, but we've got, the education and programming team on it, thinking about what we can and can't do. And we're kind of ready to go. And I don't know exactly what bookings look like at this point, but we're able to take them. I think we're just waiting to see what happens. Usually October is when we start to see a lot of those, the fall field trips. So the hunch is that a couple weeks into school, we'll get a good idea on whether it's actually going to move forward or not. So we'll see.
Okay.
Sara, are you doing any virtual field trips, Sara?
I know we were doing some virtual programs. I don't know about field trips specifically. I see Jen's chiming into different things that we're doing, but we can definitely send out some more information. I know some things we're still in the mix, and we usually we'll have homeschool days and different stuff like that as well. But I can get more details on that and send it to the group too.
There's a special weekend coming up that I'm well aware of, Sara. Do you want to talk about the first weekend in September?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. So this is something we've done every year for at least 5 years or so. Actually, the combination of our Labor Day event, which is the Hops Harvest, which will be Monday, the Monday of Labor Day, but then also combining that with our Neighbors Free Weekend, which is an assortment of different surrounding towns. Basically, we take this weekend and we invite all of our surrounding neighbors to come and enjoy the museum for free. So this has always done really, really well for us. And, thinking on the lines of COVID and different things that we have to think about as, we anticipate being busy and capping at that 750 people on site, and just, again, kind of being ready and armed for that. So that will be coming up all through Labor Day weekend. And I can send out the flyer for all of the surrounding towns too, so that if you guys are in that town, you can keep that note. But then that also kind of leads us into our Labor Day event, which is one of the few Mondays that we're open. We're typically open, we have scaled down hours now, and we're only open Thursdays through Sundays, but Monday, Labor Day, and Monday of Columbus Day are two of the Mondays that we're open. So that will also be our Hops Harvest Festival. So we'll be doing everything in-house with that. No outside vendors coming in. We'll be doing our own, beer and hops programming and wine on site, but we're excited about it. It's usually a big event for us. So
sounds good, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure the rest of us are on the call. How about you, Hillary? What are the hours of operation? Anything changed?
Yeah, we are now open Monday through Saturday, 9:30 to 4:30, and it used to be 9 to 5, and that just allows for our staff to do more cleaning. And then Sunday from 10 to 12, we're open, but just for members, and then 12 to 4:30 open for the public. So,
Okay.
and those have changed a little bit. So we added a little, and one extra member hour on Sundays, but still closing early to allow for that cleaning that needs to happen.
Perfect. All right. Good to know. I'm going to let the group, the rest of us that are on the call, unmute themselves at this point. And if you have a question you want to ask Hillary or Sarah, please do.
I'm going to start if that's okay.
Yes, Angela, go for it.
Hillary and Sarah, I'm an event planner, so I'd like to know about space available for any events that outside people might want to come to use, and how also will the Eisenhower be available for from the museum. And I know Sarah has been on one of our other Zooms and talked a little bit about it, so I think that that's important to mention to people. So Hillary, want to start?
Sure. As far as the museum is concerned, yes, we still have the rental rooms available. So you can rent the planetarium, you can rent the Eisenhower Auditorium, you can rent the Bausch Auditorium, or even, different spaces throughout the museum. But we do have a much reduced capacity. So the planetarium capacity at 36 is still 36. If there's an event in there, where, like I said, normally it's 150, or even standing it would be 210, I think. So, the lower capacity is making it so that people are rethinking those sort of cocktail parties and any indoor things. That being said, the Coming Nature Center had 17 weddings this year, and they're going to have, and right now we have booked for 24 more. I mean, a ridiculous number, because first of all, we started promoting weddings there. I mean, it's a beautiful venue. And second of all, everybody's like, all right, so flip it, outdoor wedding. So we had a few, not emergency weddings where, people planned a month or two in advance instead of a year or two in advance. So that's been good.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say to add from my point of view on the rentals and wedding side too, because that's the other piece of my department that I oversee. We've seen a lot of similarities. We have had some people come to us and say, I have 300, 200 people. Since you're outside, can I have my wedding there? No, that's not how it works. It's still 50 people for a mass gathering. And I understand completely from their perspective why that is confusing, why we're allowed to have 750 people on site as a museum for museum programming. But not have that. And I've explained to them, you have a wedding, it's different. It's people hugging and kissing, and it's a very different dynamic. And we've seen a lot of people get in a lot of trouble for, doing things. So we're really, really, really erring on the side of caution and being very conservative with that. But with that being said, in early April, we decided to roll out a micro wedding and an elopement package, and that's been really, really successful. So it's super fun. So
Hillary's taking notes right now.
It's been really fun. It's
Elopement package.
Yeah, some people are coming on site. I have a couple in 2 weeks that are coming on site. It's them, their parents, and their 16-month-old. They're getting married in the village, and then they're having dinner afterwards in one of the historic buildings, and then they're on their way. Other people, it's 25 people, and this means that we can put them in a garden in a space that we normally can't do 150 to 250 people. So there's this twist on it that it's an exclusive opportunity to do this. So we've gotten some people saying, oh my gosh, I don't have a space and I've scaled down, but it's still not going to work, or something very small. We've definitely encouraged for ourselves and other places, please don't cancel on your venue. Consider rescheduling and postponing. And we've worked with all of our clients to say, if you need to do ceremony this year, reception next year, we won't have any sort of price inflation. Of course, some people have had to change their packages, and we've worked and prorated refunds if need be. We're working with them as much as possible. But other people have just planned to just pull out of their venue and are looking for something else different, smaller. And, places like the Coming Nature Center and gardens here and outdoor spaces, they're a really good fit for something like that. So, and you know, you've got elderly people coming to a ceremony, you want to put them somewhere where they're going to be comfortable. So we've been able to kind of fill that void, I think, for people. And I think that that's the way the market's going to be going for events. I don't know how quickly we'll see big, large scale events come back in the capacity that we did in the past. So while we have two barns, one holds over almost 300 people, the other one holds 150. We have a meeting and banquet center that holds 400 people. That doesn't necessarily mean we're hosting events of that size right now. Everything's been pretty scaled back. And luckily, I'd say 95% of we typically do 20 to 25 weddings a year. They've been gracious enough to stay with us and postpone or work with us in some way. So we've been very, very lucky to, you know, manage those expectations and stay on that with them.
Thanks, Angela, for the question. Anybody else have a question?
I have two questions for both of you. One being a really positive of what's been your favorite experience since COVID-19 hit, especially as we've seen some really awesome things like those elopement and packages. And my second question is, have you started to think about late fall and winter programming and what that might look like?
My favorite thing was really weird, Dan. When we closed the building in March, and we laid off quite a few staff members, and we also had many rules about who could be in the building, I named myself as essential staff. And I came in every day because I'm terrible working from home, and I know that. So and I live here. So I live behind the planetarium. So it wasn't hard. I came in every day, and it was just me and the security guards, and they were doing their rounds, and they were not willing to do the animal care work that the education staff had done. So we have lizards, we have turtles, tortoises, insects, things like that. I took care of the bugs, and I fed the lizards, and so my expense report went from like really high-end lunches to buying crickets at Pet Supplies Plus. And I was really into it. Like, I was fine with it. I wish I could say nobody died, but we did lose a frog. Anyways, on my watch. It was old. And then sort of the second part of the question, yes, we're looking ahead to fall programming. It's not going to be a whole lot different from what we are offering now, because the caps are the same, and I'm doing almost entirely indoor programming up here. But when you think about Forest School or the Walden Project down at the Coming Nature Center, that is all weather, always outside. The only thing that changes is your clothing. So it doesn't matter if there's a monsoon or a blizzard, you're out there. And I love that about that program.
Yeah, I would say that what I've enjoyed about creating different, it's almost like it gave us the time and space away from putting out fires all the time to get back to our big picture ideas. And it's been really nice to have the time and resource to kind of pull away from a lot of different things and be able to actually implement and think through a lot of these different things, and not just the elopements, but just programs site-wide and collaborate between different departments in ways we've always wanted to, but maybe we haven't been able to. So that's been really, really nice and really fun. It's like, again, we have the time and space now to actually say, this is something that we could plug in when normally we don't have one weekend available at the museum to plug anything in, but we do. And let's think of things we can do during the week and on those few days that we're open, and think outside the box. So that's been really fun. For fall and winter programming, I did bring this up on our event enhancement committee call, because we were chatting a little bit about trick-or-treating and Halloween and what's that going to look like. Definitely thinking about fall and winter. You guys might be familiar with our two, some of our biggest events are guided candlelit tours through the historic village, our Spirits of the Past, and then our Yuletide in the Country, which are 20 people at a time going out with a period dressed interpreter or guide, showing them around. And, you know, there's a storyline, and they're going from the house to house, but they're in the house, you know, confined in small groups. We're rethinking of what that might look like, kind of thinking maybe a self-guided experience. And then if that model works well for Spirits of the Past, do we then translate that to Yuletide? This is all conversation right now. I think that right now we're just kind of taking what's in front of us one step at a time. Our agricultural fair and fall festival is usually, it could be, we had 4,000 people over the course of the whole weekend last year. So thinking, how can we capitalize and maximize that, but then stay within regulations? Does that mean 2 waves of that 750 block of people? And what is vendor, what does the layout look like and the flow look like for that? So we're planning on trying to do everything as planned, but it's just going to look differently. So talking through different ideas with that, and what could that potentially look like? Again, trick-or-treating, we had a conversation that I personally don't think that a lot of people are going to be out with their kids trick-or-treating this year. And trick-or-treating in the village has always been a very popular event regardless. So we either need to do it well, do it right, and market it well that we're doing it, safely and what that's going to look like. Because if we do, then that means we need to be ready with getting a lot of people, because people might be looking for that safe, controlled atmosphere to bring their kids. Because I don't foresee people going out and bringing their kids to, 20 houses on their street to get candy. So we're thinking through all of these things. Nothing's set in stone. It's very one thing at a time at this point. They're like, get through September, but we're talking about them so that we can start implementing them. And then so Jen can start marketing them for us.
Great questions, Dan. Thank you. Did you get all the answers you were looking for there? We covered it? Awesome. Great shirt there, by the way. You want to show everybody? You didn't get to see it at the beginning of the call.
It's my favorite shirt.
This is a planetarium shirt. I think I need to find one of those. Are those available at the planetarium, Hillary?
No, that was that was a hot ticket item. Right at the beginning of closure, we did a t-shirt fundraiser. And we had 3, one for the CNC, one for the museum, and one for the planetarium that Dan's wearing. We thought we were going to sell, I don't know, $2,000 worth of t-shirts, and we ended up selling net to us $12,000 worth of t-shirts.
Wow.
It was like all of a sudden, and then when they came, they turned out to be like the most comfortable, beautiful t-shirts ever. And you never know when you're ordering from they're so good.
Well, you might want to share that vendor name then here.
Yeah,
That would be awesome.
No, but I can find that out.
Well, that's really good to know. So that just makes me think about you both have stores, are your stores open at the museums?
Yeah, actually, I was going to mention we had a lot of success in our curbside pickup ahead of time when we were able to sell food and beverage curbside. Made a lot of sales there, and then we've been able to reopen the gift shop. We actually just remodeled the gift shop, and sales are doing really well. We're just maintaining the flow. I believe it's 8 or 10 people at a time allowed in the gift shop, and just kind of managing that. But they're open, they're up and running, and they're doing really well. And that's an amazing example, Hillary, of seeing these sales. I really feel like in those months leading up to literally being open, we were seeing a lot of people supporting all of the programs that were coming out. I think that people were doing a really good job buying and supporting local and kind of looking for opportunities to support businesses. So we were able to definitely capitalize on that ahead of time. And now we're still doing that kind of thing in gift shops and restaurants, and everything's open, just staying within the guidelines.
Yeah. I mean, and my answer to that is that our gift shop is open. When I said earlier that I was jealous of the outdoor venues, partially it's because there's a lot of people are not interested in coming to indoor venues. So regardless of our summer camp being super successful and wonderful, our admissions has not been great. I'm just going to put it there. It's about 15 to 20% of what we had originally budgeted for as far as just general admission and no group admission. None of us have seen a bus since February. And gosh, I would love to see a bus or 3 or 15. So we're just not, so we're down at 15% of where we would normally be. And so therefore gift shop revenue is probably in the same place.
Gotcha. You guys are going to get through these times. We're all going to get through these times.
Yeah.
I understand exactly what you mean when you say I'd love to see a bus or 3. When we do come out of this, we're going to be so much better. We will have grown. We will be stronger. We will have this story behind us. So what you guys are doing is a part of the story, and I think you should both be very proud.
Thank you.
Good work. You're welcome. Anyone else have any other questions before we open it up to everybody? I'd love to hear from them.
I just like another question.
Yes.
Do you doing any online selling of your shop items?
We do, and that's something we always did. We actually upgraded our e-commerce system this year too. But yeah, we're selling online. Again, we had that curbside. We were selling some things online here or there, pottery, different things, mailing those out, and that's just kind of continued. So we've always done that, but we've definitely seen a good pickup in the business there.
Cool.
And we didn't have a really good e-commerce system, so people could call and get something. A lot of people really wanted certain things, like the stuffed snakes for some reason sell better. That and astronaut ice cream sell better than anything that we sell. So we were doing that, but we don't have a strong e-commerce site, and we didn't have the cash outlay to be able to set it up during that time.
Well, I think that might be a good idea for the holidays coming, because people can just order online just like they do any other place, and at least support all of you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Good point.
Got to get one of those stuffed viruses or germs that you
Yes.
have. I mean,
Yes.
those are so cute. Kathleen, did you have your hand going up for a question?
Yeah, not so much for a question, but to talk about what's on our plates for the fall and the winter. We are going to attempt to do our annual Sweet Creations gingerbread house display,
Okay.
as well as the wreath and the tabletop tree display. We've already sent out the mailings for these, and I have to say the public is really excited about doing something normal, so the entry forms are coming in faster than they ever have before. We will have to sort of curtail the number of gingerbreads, because I will have to provide good walking paths around the displays. And I'm also looking to try to cover as many of the gingerbread houses as possible with plexi cubes. I have been offered a few plexi cubes from some of my local sister institutions to help me out through this. And if anyone knows of a place where I can borrow a few plexiglass covers, I'd love to know, because trying to cover 48 to 50 gingerbread houses, we definitely do not have that number of plexi tops in the museum. And this will be essential this year to cover them and keep them germ-free for the sale.
Are you, Kathleen, I don't know about anyone else, but we should talk afterwards. I have a vendor that might be able to help you.
Oh, okay. That would be great. Thank you.
From what I know from an exhibit design perspective, Plexi's been really hard to come by this year. So, we were developing a couple of exhibits during the close time, and the Plexi that was supposed to come in April, they were like, maybe now it's July or maybe now it's August, because everybody was building their shields for their front desks, wherever you are, at a bank or at a retail operation. So I don't know what the status or the state of Plexi is, but Maureen, if you have somebody that could help, that's great.
That's a great point. I have no idea what their
really rough
material quantity is like, but that's a good point. Well, I love that we're here to help each other. Before we share any more else, I just want to bring up one thing before it gets too late, and that is that if anyone here has any questions about membership or questions about Visit Rochester itself, how to get more involved, or how, what does membership mean, I just wanted to share the person in charge of all of that, and Greg LaDuca is the contact you want to reach out to. Here's his information, email and telephone number for any Visit Rochester questions you might have. And thank you for guests and members that came on today. This is my information too, in case you have any questions from me. That's my work email, and that is my cell phone number. Actually, I just want you to know, call me or text me if you need anything at all regarding what's on your plate or anything else that might be on your mind, marketing wise and community wise. Okay.